Okay, time to clean our workspace here. And we're gonna start by hiding everything from the character that does not need to be accessed by the animators. So let's do that by doing the following. I'm first going to unhide everything we have in the rig. Okay. So now everything is displayed. As you can see, we have a bunch of stuff there. And we have already created a group called Ace Hidden, where we'll be placing all the stuff that we want to hide from the animator. So let's turn that off. We can see that we still have a bunch of stuff there that the animator won't really need. So let's hide the things we don't want him to touch. And I'm going to also bring up a new palette, and I'm going to bring up the item list. I'm going to get rid of this. So I'm going to be using it because I need to be able to select stuff and at the same time work with the group, so that way I won't have to be switching tabs over here. So let's get started. I can see right off the bat, these guys, they really don't need to be visible. This is an up vector, this is another up vector, and another up vector. So let's select all of them. Okay, and add the items to the hidden group. They get hidden. To avoid having to include everything on the hidden group, I'm gonna also hide here, right here in the hierarchy, things that I can just hide the entire hierarchy for. For example, the deformed skeleton, we can definitely get rid of that. We can definitely get rid of prop deformers, of the I'm gonna go through each one of these separately. The weight containers, I mean, they're not displayed anyway, so we don't care about those. Let's go one by one. So we have rig controls, we want to keep that up. Prop controls, prop deformers, we don't need the morph influences either. The geometry, yes, and actually we are missing our shield over there. Where I'm gonna take care of the shield later, but we need to display it. We have the cut wrist, which we haven't actually yet attached to the skeleton. We're gonna do that soon. We have the gear rigs. Okay, I'm gonna go and let's start with the rig controls. Let's see what we have here. We have this orphaned locator right there. We don't need that. We can delete it. Sorry. Then we have the prop controls. We only have the shield. Prop deformers, everything is hidden here. Morph influences, that's okay. The geometry is all displayed, so we're good. Okay, let's check out the gear rigs. And for the time being, the guide, we can hide the guide. We don't need the guide. We can hide all this stuff for now. I'm gonna be displaying things one by one. So let's focus on the gear rigs. Let's start with accessories. And we have all these constraint locators and up vectors. Now I can also hide them here directly on the on the items list, but I'm gonna include them in the group just to make sure they're easier to manage. I like to hide stuff in the items list only when it's a single click for the entire hierarchy, but when there's mixed states inside of the same hierarchy, I prefer to just add them to the list. So in this case, we have all these belt attach objects. Let's add those. Sorry. Let's check the belt rig deformers. Same thing. We have all these guys. We're gonna add those. We forgot about these other deformers, which are the smaller ones. Actually, they don't deform anything. They're part of the hierarchy, but we can hide those definitely. Then we have the waste attach rig. Again, a bunch of locators we don't need to see. Perfect. Belt controls. So we need to hide these constraint locators, but not the controls under them. So let's add those items. We don't need to see the curve and its riders. And the same goes for the next curve and its riders. There we go. Okay, so we're done with the belt. Let's move on to the buckles. And we have a bunch of stuff here. Up vector locator constraint. It looks like everything can be just added. It's part of all the buckle pieces. I'm gonna add those. Perfect. So they're gone. Let's move on to the goggles. We have the formers. We have a control here. We gotta be mindful of that one. So let's select all these and these guys and this up vector and add those. We can leave the rest displayed. So we're good. And let's move on to the ammo group. And there's no controls here, just a bunch of locators. We add those in, and everything is starting to look a lot better. So looks like we're done with this group. With the gear group, we don't need to see the guide rig again, nor the deformation skeleton. Let's see the advanced deformations rig. What's in here? I don't think there's any controls. So that sorry, that can remain hidden entirely. The texture group 2, we don't need the textures. Same for weight containers. Let's now check the neck head group. We have a bunch of stuff here. I'm just looking for, there's a bunch of controls that we need. So let's display all this. And let's see, we're gonna hide this guy. Anything that is not labeled as a control needs to be in the hidden group. We don't need to worry about the group locators. Those have no display in the viewport. Let's hide the joints and these guys. There you go. So the only thing we see are the controls for the tongue, the jaw, and the head. Okay. So we're done with this one. We're gonna unhide it again at the end. And I'm gonna hide the gears for now too. As you can see, there we have we missed this. Oh, that's a parent, yeah. Let's hide that. And we also missed this. There we go. Much better. So right leg. Let's see what we have for the right leg. So we have all this, all this, all this. Pretty much everything in here except this last hierarchy. So let's see if we can just take this and hide it and the IK leg. And as you can see, this has already been included. Actually, I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna include them in the group because I prefer to do that really. So let's select all these guys. Select the group locator and add those items. Then I'm gonna select all these guys, add them. Then all these guys, add those. Sorry, we have these controls, they stay, and then these 3 locators Looks like they're already part of the group because they're not displayed. And these guys are also already part of the group because they're not displayed either. And I can't unhide them. So that's it. We have our leg done. Except I should have not added these guys because these are part of the FK leg, and I don't know why they're labeled as joints, but so let's remove selected items from the group. There we go. We don't need this toes end. Let's hide that one. And I should probably rename these guys to control because they're definitely not joints. I'm gonna do that very quickly. And this last one. Well, this one actually is not a control, so I'm gonna leave it like that. So we're good. Sorry. Let's see what we got here. Who are you? Control for the ankle. These are part of the IK foot, and this is our foot roll control. And we have an interesting friend here. Control for the toes. Why does it have a locator attached to it? Probably the display is set to, oh, it's set to replace. Oh, that's interesting. And this guy is the control for the ball pivot. I'm not sure why we get a locator display right there. But yeah, oh, it's because it's using a default shape. Let's see what is the display for its parent. Default replace box. Oh, this one also has a locator. Yeah, it's because of the display properties. I guess I could change this to be actual boxes to get rid of the locators, but it's not a big deal. So let's just keep moving. Let's close the leg hierarchy, unhide the other leg, and we're going to repeat the process. So we have this locator and the main rig. Let's take all that and add it. Then take, this is the IK leg, so we can also hide that. I'm sorry. This is the FK leg, so we only need to add the last one, and we can rename the others. I guess at this point, oh no, this is not a control. You could just probably skip on the rest of the video if you want, because this is all I'm going to be doing. I'm going to keep recording just in case you want to see exactly which items I'm hiding. But the basic principle is just that, is anything that the animator does not need to touch, you put it in the hidden group. Now, I know that anybody could just open the file and unhide the hidden group and mess with the stuff that's in there, but then that's at their own risk. That's the disclaimer that comes with every rig. Mess with something that is not supposed to be messed with and you will pay the price. So there you go. You can tell them that. And that's it. We're done with this leg too. Let's close it. Let's move on to the arm. And the arms are very similar. So we have IK controls. Then we have this item. Let's add that. Then we have a couple of controls. Another constraint related item. There we go. That's hidden. Rig. Arm. Oh. We need this guy displayed because it's needed to match the hand space in case we need him. So we're going to keep him there. We have these guys that are already hidden, as you can see. Then we have the main rig, which is all the joints. Up vector locators. We can take all this and hide it. Sorry. And then we have the hand controls. We can select these 3 items and hide those. Oh, they're already included in the group, so no need to do that. And the rest is done. So this is it. That's our arm display. Let's collapse that and move on to the next arm. And do the same. Controls. So we have this constraint, this other constraint, these 2 guys. Add those. Let's add these joints. Oh, they're added already? Okay. Now all these joints and locators. Apologize for the coughing. I've been sick lately. And the rest needs to be displayed, so looks like we're good too with this arm. Let's keep on moving with torso. This guy has more stuff. So let's see. We have rig. Let's hide these guys. Rig. Parent. And some controls. The controls will leave them alone. Oh, they're already added. Curve. Some constraint items to the curve. Another curve. Some fall offs. So let's select those. Sorry. Perfect. Huh. That's funny. That punched a hole in our spine over there. Let's take all these joints and the locator. And then we have up vector, constraint, a locator, couple of joints. And all these guys. Let's add all those. Some were already selected and hidden. You can check it on with the little icon they have. Constraint, locator. Ah, we have a control right there in the middle. We don't want to have those hidden. Okay. A bunch of controls. Rig item and constraint. Some locators, 2 rig items, and that's it. So let's see what this looks like. Yeah, that looks pretty much like the controls the torso needs. Oh no, here it is. We missed something. We missed this guy. We accidentally hit him. So let's remove that item. Okay, perfect. Alright, we're done with the torso. And now let's move on to the eyes. Looks, it's just a little number of things there that we need to hide. Constraint, view parents and rig objects and up vectors. And that's it. And lastly, the face rig. So this one has a few things in here. Controls, parent, locators. Let's add those items. Parent and locators again. Add those. Controls, parent and more locators. Add those. Controls, parent and locators. Add those and more controls. Then we have these two guys. Controls, these are just locators. A constraint object. Locators. And another constraint object. And then more locators over here. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah. Sorry. That looks like that's going to do the trick. Perfect. So now we can unhide everything, starting from the neck head group, and these are the rig controls. That's it. This is what the animator is going to work with. And I'm going to do one additional thing to help the animator also deal a little bit with the complexity of all this, because as you can see, it's there's a good number of controls right there. We're also going to create a few groups for some of the controls that we have here. So let's say, for example, I can grab, I'm going to hide everything again. Sorry. I'm going to grab all these controls. And to make things easier for me, I'm going to hide the geometry for a second. Let's grab all these guys. And I'm going to create a new group for them. And actually, you know what? Where are the eyes? I'm going to also include these guys because the eyes are usually animated. It's part of the face. So let's create a new group. I'm going to call him Ace Facial Controls. And this is a standard group from selected items. And that's it. That's all we're going to do. So this way, the animator can hide or unhide the group as needed, depending on what kind of task he's doing. And we can actually wire this onto sorry, one of our main controls over here. If you want, we can do that right away. I think I closed the little UI window. Let's see. Where's our... Here it is. Let's create a new channel for it. Actually, we could do that for each limb in case the animator doesn't want to see a few things. So yeah, let's do that. Let's add a display divider. And then we're going to add another channel, and we're going to call this display display head, well, face controls. And this is going to be a boolean. Okay. The actual channel doesn't use Boolean values, but we're going to translate this into whatever the the actual channel will require. So there we go. And we're going to add another one called display head controls. Okay. Let's now take these two channels and go to our channel set for the head global controls. Control click on that to add it to the selection and say add channels. So now we have them here. They're Boolean, so you can just check and uncheck them. Oh, I forgot to add the display channel, the display divider. So we get a nice little divider over there. Okay. And now what these guys are going to do is the following. Let's take our, let's see where it is, our group, facial controls group. Add that over here. It's our group. We're going to take the visible channel and move that over here. Now the visible channel actually uses, as you can see, 3 values: default, on, or off. So what I need to do is use floats for this, and I'm going to wire them just to the on and off states because I don't need the default. So let's see what kind of values I get from that. Let's add a math add node, and I'm going to wire the visible state just to the math node and see what we get. So I can see that when the when the visible is set to default, my value a channel on the math node is 0. If I put this to on, then it moves to 1. And if I set this to off, the value is 2. So to properly wire my Boolean value coming from here onto this guy, I'm going to need to use a conditional node so I can set the values correctly. Let's move this guy a little bit over here. And let's say conditional if A is equal to B. Now the value we're going to test is display face controls. Okay. So let's see what we need. So when this guy is true, we need a value of 1. And when it's false, I'm sorry, we need a value of 2. So if this guy is equal to 1, which is true, then we're going to output the true value and the false value. So the true value is going to be if this guy is equal to 1, which means on, then I believe we said this needs to be 1. Otherwise, it needs to be 2. Let's take a look at that. So if this guy is on, it's 1. If it's off, it's 2. Yeah, that seems to be just about right. So now we need to wire the output onto the visible property of the group. And let's see what we get. And this guy's off. As you can see, I don't know why, but Modo needs to like force a redraw by selecting stuff or doing something, but it does work. And then when I turn it on, you can just click on anything to force the viewport to update. And as you can see, it works. There's a little bug in there that needs to be worked out. I can delete this math node now. And that's it. Now we can do the same for the head controls. So let's unhide the neck and head. Okay, let's hide these guys for now. And I'm going to select him. I guess I'm going to include the tongue with the neck and head. The tongue controls. Sorry. Let's create a new group. Ace. Head controls. Great. So let's add our group over here. Let's duplicate our conditional, and let's just wire the display of the neck and head over to it, and wire the output to this guy's visible channel. And we're done. Let's turn both on. There you go. So that way, the animator can also decide to hide certain controls based on if he's going to need them or not. And that's pretty much it. I mean, we're done with all the display of our rig. I'm going to let you do the rest of the controls for each limb. So all you have to do is go into each one of these items, create your display divider, create the display arm controls or leg controls wherever you're working channel, and then create a group for the controls on that side of the character, wire everything up, and you're good to go. So I'll see you when we're done with this phase of the UI of the character. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is to set the appropriate transform manipulator for each item that we have as a control object in the rig. And the basic principle behind that is, as you already saw, we're able to tell an item in the scene to perform a certain action when you select it. So for example, for these control locators that we've been using, once they are selected, they bring up this UI, sorry, or they can bring up the channel hall UI too. So there's several things you can do with these guys, and but we can also use them for other things. Like for example, I can use them to set the correct transform tool to be used with the object that I have in front of me. So let's start, for example, with these two guys, the control for the eyes in character space. So this is something that the animator would move. That's the only thing he needs to do. So for example, by going to the assembly tab, and I can type in here any command that I want, but there are some presets that I can use. So if I expand this drop down list, you'll see that there's several transform manipulators here that I can use. There's also the channel hold, the channel pop over, all that. So I can set, for example, this to use the move tool. Okay, so this is the command to enable the move tool. So next time the animator selects this object, the move tool is selected automatically, and he can just go ahead and move it directly. Okay, so that's something that's very useful. Now for this other control, which is the heads in character space, this one I would want to rotate, not move. So I can just select the rotate manipulator here from the list. Next time it gets selected, the rotate manipulator is enabled. Sorry. And I can continue assigning all the manipulators that I actually need for my controls to work. So let's take a look at that. Let's expand our rig hierarchy, and we're gonna start with the neck and head. So for example, we know that these guys, this is for the jaw, but here interestingly, I don't want to just rotate the jaw. I know that that's the main purpose of this control. I'm sorry. I can go ahead and rotate the jaw open, but there is no reason why I should limit the animator to not, for example, move it. Well, this one actually, it's not doing anything when we try to move it. So in this case then, yes, I will just use it for rotations. Let me undo that. But we could modify the jaw rig to also support moving the joint. So let's see, yeah, assembly, rotate. The neck, same thing, rotate. Unfortunately, this is not something that you can just have a multiple selection in your viewport for and just select the command. You have to do them one by one. Just a little bit of a limitation there, but it's okay. Now for the tongue components, well, these controls for the tongue, yes, they can also just rotate, but these guys can also be moved, as you can see, to stretch the tongue out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select instead the transform tool, which it includes the gizmo to scale, move, and rotate in transforms in the same tool. So let's set these guys up with that one. There we go. And that's it. Now we have all the correct transforms enabled for our friend here to use. So let's move on to I'm sorry, the leg. So this is a an FK control. I don't think yeah, moving that won't do much. Actually, let's test it. Oh, looks like this guy has the incorrect behavior. FK is... Oh yeah, no, it's fine. Sorry, my bad. Got confused there for a second. Yeah, moving the item won't do anything. So we are just going to rotate this guy. Sorry. So let's do rotate tool for him. For this guy, rotate tool. Now this is part of the IK, so this is our knee up vector. So this guy definitely is just going to move. We have the shield control. Actually, he's right there. Prop controls. Let's do this one right away so we can hide him. This one is going to be a transform manipulator. There. This guy only rotates. He's the one we use for our foot roll. So let's rotate that. This guy is our ankle pivot. So that's going to rotate. This guy, rotate. Our friend here, rotate. This one over here, rotate. 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 And the control for the entire foot, this guy is transform. Okay. So there we go. We have one leg done. Now we'll do the other one. And probably for this one, since it's exactly the same thing, I'm just going to pause the video and come back when we're ready to move to the arm. Okay, I'm done. So as you can see, whenever I click on something, the correct manipulator shows up. So we're good. Let's now move on to the arm. So this guy is going to be rotating. This guy is going to be rotating. This guy is going to be moving. This guy will move. This guy needs to rotate. This guy rotate. This guy rotate. Actually, there's one of them that this is the hand world space, the hand arm space. I guess yeah, I guess I'll give the animator the option to rotate them. Now, when it comes to the fingers, there is one thing here that you need to be aware of, and it's the fact that when you set the manipulator through the command, whenever you click on the item, that command is going to be immediately executed. That means that everything else that you intend to do after the fact, after clicking on the object on screen, is going to be ignored basically. And one of the things that I like to do is to select hierarchies by double clicking on an item. So for example, here I can double click on this item right there, and it selects all of its children. So I can have the hierarchy selected and just rotate it in local space to rotate all of them at the same time, which I think for fingers is something very handy. However, if I set here the command to rotate, for example, the next time I double click, the hierarchy is not selected. I can only select the item I clicked on, and it gets the rotate tool enabled for that. So I lose the ability to select the rest of the hierarchy. So in the case of the finger controls, I am not going to use I'm not going to use a command here because I don't want it to enable the manipulator and lose the ability to select the hierarchy. I prefer to select the hierarchy and just manually turn on the manipulator so I can rotate everything the way I need it to behave. So I'm not going to do anything for the fingers. I'm just going to do the other arm. And again, I'm just going to pause the video and see you in a minute. Alrighty, I'm done with the arm. Again, selecting anything brings up the correct tool. So we are good to go here. Let's see what's next. We have the torso. Okay, for this guy, let's see what these controls do. This is the control for the hips. So I'm pretty sure this is meant to be rotated, of course. Can it be moved? Well, it can. Not sure if you would like to, but let's not, again, not limit the animator. So let's set this to transform. Then we have torso and hips. Looks one of our arms is set to IK mode over there. So I'm not entirely sure if we would like to move it like that, but I think we could, because if the legs are anchored in IK, then this could come in handy. So let's also set it to transform. And we have this guy, which is the lower torso curve. Let's see what it does if we move it. Nothing. So this guy definitely just rotate. Then we have this control. I know it's the FK start again. Doesn't do anything if we move it, just rotate it. How about this guy? This guy can move, and that stretches out the torso when in FK mode. So that could come in handy. And I believe it's going to be the same case for this guy. So let's also set it to transform. This guy, it's the same thing. This guy can be moved. So let's head into transform. The clavicles just rotate. And the IK clavicles move. Okay, and I think that's pretty much it. Let's move on to our eye controls. These guys can definitely do several things. These guys make no sense to rotate them because that's going to do nothing. The eye is just pointing towards them, so we're going to set them to move. But our friend here, that could be useful to rotate because he can make our character go cross-eyed. So let's set that up for him. And lastly, the facial rig. So most of this stuff is just going to basically move. These guys move, and the master controls will also be able to rotate. So let's set them up. This guy moves. This guy moves. This guy moves. All these circles are only moving, and the planes are going to be using the transform tool. Let's see, this guy transform, this guy transform, this guy transform, transform, and transform. So that way we can select our controls and have them ready for exactly what we're going to do. Cool. And that completes our setup for the correct transforms to use for our controls on the rig. So let's see what's left for us to do to complete our rig control system.